Hey students, it's Dr. Franklin. Last chapter we asked what the psychology of religion actually studies, and we looked at how scholars try to define religion in the first place. This chapter picks up that thread and asks a different question. How did psychology's earliest and most influential thinkers actually try to explain religion? We're going to move through 5 major perspectives: James, Freud, Jung, the humanistic and existential psychologists, and finally Allport and Maslow. And by the end, you'll see these theorists land in very different places on one central question. Is religion something psychologically healthy, or is it something to be explained away? Let's start with William James. James is often called the father of American psychology, but what a lot of people don't realize is that he also did foundational work on religion specifically in 2 books: The Will to Believe and The Varieties of Religious Experience. James described 2 broad types of religious orientation. Healthy-minded religion is optimistic, non-reflective, and rooted in a deep sense that life is fundamentally good. Morbid-minded religion, on the other hand, is more introspective, takes evil seriously as a real feature of the world, and tends toward a more demanding theology. Think of the difference between a faith tradition that emphasizes joy and gratitude versus one that centers heavily on sin, judgment, and repentance. James would say both are genuinely religious, just oriented very differently. What's especially interesting about James is how he thought we should evaluate religion. He argued we should judge religion by its fruits, not its roots. In other words, look at what a belief actually produces in a person's life, not where the belief originally came from. This was a deeply pragmatic approach, and James took a qualitative first-person religious experience seriously as data, even while he respected quantitative research. He also made a striking philosophical claim that individuals have the right to believe even in the absence of complete facts, because staying skeptical can itself carry real consequences. For James, religion was fundamentally about function, what it does for a person. Now let's turn to someone who saw things very differently: Sigmund Freud. Freud's view of religion grows directly out of his psychoanalytic theory, and it's considerably more skeptical than James's. Freud proposed that religious belief often stems from what he called the oceanic feeling, an infant's early sense that there's no real separation between itself and the world, a feeling of being fundamentally connected to everything. As we grow, that sense of oneness fades, and Freud argued that religion functions as a way to recapture that lost feeling and cope with living in an unpredictable, painful world. Freud also connected religious belief to unconscious family dynamics, specifically the Oedipal complex. He believed people often fail to fully separate the concept of God from the image of their own biological father. So someone carrying unresolved resentment toward their father might, in Freud's view, work through that tension by embracing God, a father figure who commands obedience but also offers protection and love in return. Freud saw the child-father relationship and the human-God relationship as structurally identical. Both involve a figure of superior power whose favor is won through obedience. Taken further, Freud described religion as a wish-fulfilling illusion, comfort-seeking behavior rooted in the same parent-child dynamic. At the group level, he even traced religion back to a kind of species-level repressed memory, an ancient symbolic reenactment of sons overthrowing fathers for power, with religious rules and rituals functioning to restore order and relieve collective guilt. Ultimately, Freud characterized religion as a universal obsessional neurosis, a compulsive strategy for managing guilt, shame, and anxiety. But he didn't see it as purely negative in effect. He also argued religion helped restrain aggressive and sexual instincts, which allowed civilization and cooperative morality to develop. Still, Freud's overall position was clear. He took a rational, logical stance and predicted that, over time, religion would eventually need to give way to reason. That's a strong claim, and it's one that his own student would come to reject. Carl Jung broke Freud and developed a very different take. When Freud saw religion as something to be outgrown, Jung saw religious symbols, rituals, and images as expressions of the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of meaning that carries real psychological power across all of humanity. For Jung, psychological health depends on experiencing wholeness, a sense of being connected to something greater than yourself. In fact, Jung went so far as to argue that the experience of God is necessary for human wholeness, that the archetypes living in our minds are so powerful they have to be acknowledged religiously or otherwise if we want any real shot at mental health and fulfillment. From there, psychology's so-called third wave, humanistic psychology, closely associated with Abraham Maslow, took yet another angle. Humanistic psychology is often paired with existentialism, which focuses on freedom, choice, and how we actively construct meaning in our lives. Together, these two traditions see real value in religion, because human beings are constantly searching for meaning, wrestling with the fear of death, and confronting the possibility that life might be, at bottom, meaningless. Within this tradition, Fromm drew an important distinction between authoritarian religion and humanistic religion. Authoritarian religion, in Fromm's view, makes people feel small. It demands submission to a dominating, controlling force and strips away a person's sense of their own power. Humanistic religion does the opposite. It centers on human strengths and potential, cultivates reason, and moves people toward solidarity with the rest of humanity. Picture the difference between a religious community built entirely around fear of punishment versus one built around personal growth and connection to others. That's Fromm's distinction in action. Gordon Allport offered a related but distinct framework, the difference between mature and immature religious orientation. For Allport, mature religion is well differentiated. It's rich and complex. It's not simplistic. It's dynamic, meaning it might start from childish motives but develops into something genuinely reflective and functional over time. It consistently directs behavior in positive ways. It's comprehensive enough to make room for things like scientific knowledge, and it's heuristic, meaning it doesn't shy away from life's darker realities, and it treats its own beliefs as open to revision if better answers come along. Maslow, meanwhile, made a striking claim in his 1964 book, Religious Values and Peak Experiences. The claim that he made was that many so-called religious experiences are really just natural human peak experiences, profound, transcendent moments that anyone can have, described using whatever cultural or religious language happened to be available to the person at the time. And Maslow had a theory for why organized religion often falls short. Theologians take these raw, powerful experiences and translate them into words, doctrines, and institutions, buildings, rituals, ceremonies, official personnel. And over time, that paraphernalia starts to matter more than the original experience it was meant to preserve. In Maslow's eyes, plenty of ordinary secular moments can become genuinely sacred, while plenty of official religious customs carry no real holiness at all. He was beginning to explore a related idea, something he called plateau experiences, a more sustainable, longer-lasting version of a peak experience within a religious context. But unfortunately, he died before he could really develop it. Let's close with one more framework that's specifically useful going forward: Crystal Park's meaning-making model. Park distinguishes between global meaning, our deep overarching beliefs and sense of order in the world, and situational meaning, the meaning we assign to a specific stressful event as it's happening. When something stressful occurs, we appraise it, and then often without realizing it, we check whether that situational meaning lines up with our global meaning. When it doesn't, real distress follows. And here's where religion often enters the picture. Religious meaning making can become a tool for reinterpreting the situation, helping a person either restore their original global meaning or revise it in light of what's happened. So, where does that leave us? In just this one chapter, we've seen religion cast as a pragmatic tool for living well, a childhood illusion to be outgrown, a necessary path to psychological wholeness, a vehicle for either domination or growth, a marker of psychological maturity, and a raw experience too often buried under institutional paraphernalia. That range itself tells you something important. Even psychology's own founders couldn't agree on what religion fundamentally is. Next chapter, we'll leave the armchair theorizing behind and turn to how behaviorism, neuroscience, and cognitive science try to study religion with considerably more empirical rigor.